Welcome to part 7 of our videos. I think in this one we're going to do the main head shape, so let's get started. Okay. Now, let's get reference picture in. Don't think I had the proper one for the face. He's posed on all of them, so it's very difficult to find a really good reference picture for the face. Yeah. Okay. And he's got a very peculiar shape on the face, doesn't he? And popping eyes as well, and that's very difficult. What I'm looking at here is the eyes, actually, how that it will be quite challenging afterwards to get it ready for animation, to rig it and everything, because we need to make sure we've got enough loops there with the geometry so we can make the eyes close. And they're quite popping eyes, aren't they? Cute though. Yeah, I think I've chosen this one for the face. This is the best, it will work the best. And again, here we've got from the previous picture, so automatically you go to the X button to close it, but you see how the wheel went there, so I need to look on the wheel to delete the other picture, so I need to delete this one as well. That's how I figured it out. If there is any other easier way to do that, please do let us know. Anybody who is more experienced in this. So what I usually do is I remove both pictures and then I just add the one which I need. Scale it a little bit, rotate it a little bit, because obviously he's in a different camera angle. Let's adjust the opacity a little bit. Z on the keyboard to remove the wheel from the reference picture so we can interact with the model. Let's try to position it a little bit. I think that's kind of okay-ish. I should do. Okay, Shift+Z to remove the reference picture. Make sure you're in the correct subtool on the right, so we can start moving the geometry. Move brush. Again, for those of you, be on the keyboard to get the brushes panel, and then M for the move brush, or the first letter of any of the brushes that you want. For example, if it is the inflate brush, just I on the keyboard, and it will get you to the brushes starting with I, so you can narrow it down to the brush you want. So now I'm looking at my other reference pictures to make sure where I put the eye sockets. So I would open some of the pictures and put them on my second screen, so I can look at them while I'm sculpting. There we are. So we've got a few different angles for the eye sockets and the mouth. Smooth it a little bit. Well, you see now we've got those sharp edges on the side. It's like poking through. Well, we don't want that and we don't like that. So regardless of how much we're going to be smoothing it, that's not going to go away. Even if we add subdiv, it's still going to be looking like a sharp edge there. So at some point we'll need to ZRemesher it. There we are. So I'm deleting my subdiv. So you see how is the geometry stretched on the front and kind of edgy on the side. So we need to ZRemesher it. There we are. That's much better, isn't it? So these sharp, like tiny edges are going to be gone once we have the subdiv after. It's very difficult, and I think the slowest process of all is getting the main shape right. Once you have the main shape right, it's sorry, I just keep hovering with the mouse. Once we get the main shape right, it's much easier afterwards figuring out stuff, because at the moment what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna create the geometry so it's easier to manipulate after. We'll need to retopologize it anyway, so that's where the most detail comes in, when now we can get the main shape right and then add the subdiv and we get a good result. But we can't animate with a lot of geometry, can we? So we need to make sure we have the geometry where we need it, and it's not that much where we don't need it, because one thing is, you'll see later on when we're doing the animation, the test animations for the rig, to test the rig and just like do simple animations, you will see the more geometry you have, it's harder to animate with character. It's not undoable, but it is harder. And you will see why we can't use the low poly where we've used the ZRemesher to remesh the topology, because the way that ZBrush's ZRemesher does it, it's a little bit different than what we need for animation. So we're just getting the main shape of the eyes right. Now we're stretching the geometry there. And again, we will need to ZRemesh that as well. That's how I like working. That I'm not saying that's the only way of doing things. It's just that this is my way. This is how I figured out how to do things, and how to approach things, and how to avoid some problems and errors afterwards. But to get here, it took me quite a while, figuring things out by myself and watching few tutorials and practicing. The most important is practicing. So I've spent hours and hours and hours, and it just takes time to learn first the tools in a certain software, then to know how to use the tools. I still don't know how to use a lot of the tools in ZBrush, because later on you'll see we'll do the eyes as well. And the way I do it, because then I transfer it into Maya to actually do the low poly eyes. It can be done in ZBrush as well with ZModeler tool, but I still haven't learn how to properly use it. So I would rather do it in Maya, where I'm confident with my modeling skills. Okay, so we did the eye sockets. And we've got the eyebrows area. I remember it was really hard for me figuring out how to do the detail, which is on the eyebrows, on the top of the back, and on his belly. In terms of, it's very easy to sculpt it, but in terms of afterwards for creating the low poly model for animation. So you'll see later on how I decided to approach it. I think that's what I'm thinking at the moment as well. That's why it's taking me so long, trying to figure out how I'm going to approach this afterwards, because I am always trying to think ahead. From experience, I've probably created 7 rigs by now, and each one of the rigs had some problems because of the geometry. So I'm always trying to learn from my mistakes and to improve. So the next one, which will be Maximus, which I have already started, hopefully it will be better. I've approached Maximus a little bit in a different way, creating the main model, because this is what we're doing now. This I use as a main model, which I retopologize afterwards. And then I add much more detail as well after we've done the retopology. He looks creepy like this, to be honest. Look at that. That's creepy. But I guess you don't see it while you're working on it. That's why it's so fun for me going through all these videos again, learning from my mistakes again. You know, that's why it took me so long, because I've actually recorded step by step everything. And I'm really hoping that that will be helpful for people who are just starting with the ZBrush and Maya and Substance Painter as well later on. Because there is so many things you need to be aware of, but you wouldn't know unless you've done the whole pipeline from creating the model for games and animation. There is people, they specialize only in modeling, only in rigging, only in animation. That's why they're specialists. But for me, it's one thing is I would not be able to find a job because I work as a freelancer. And I would not be able to find a job if I do only one of the things. This way, yes, it will take me much, much longer to call myself a specialist. But I think it's the right way to go. I just finished a really big project, and hopefully I will be able to post it next week. And the customer is really good. She was amazing, and it was really good experience. We completed it within 2 months, but it was a very, very big project. Okay, so we are, sorry, I'm just blubbering about what we're doing here. We're doing the eyebrows area. There we are, trying to get the main shape there right. The eye sockets as well, very important. And it's very important always to keep looking around the model, not work only from one angle. Let's say you start working on the front and then you forget that that's what I used to do in the beginning, at least. You know, you're so concentrating on working on let's say the front, and then you forget about the profile, and then my front looks really nice, and then when I turn it into profile, it's like somebody punched it in the face, like so flat and whatnot. I mean, so it's very important to remember to keep looking around, profile, back, top, bottom. Well, bottom not so much sometimes, but yeah, just every angle. Because from the front might look very nice, but then you turn it in the profile, it's like, that's very flat. It doesn't go with the anatomy at all. Yeah, I was struggling. In the beginning, I was always struggling with the eye socket area, especially in profile, and with the mouth. I think I'm still struggling with the mouth for the human-like characters, but I'm getting there. I'm finding my way. That's the most important, finding your way how to work, because there's so many ways of doing things. And at some point, I was getting really confused. That's why I created all these videos, even though they're like so boring. Probably for some people, they're so boring, but for some people who are just starting to learn, I hope they will appreciate my effort in going through this and, basically do the videos and the audio overlap. Okay, yes, make sure it happens to me if you import a reference picture, yeah, and then you want to save your project, it will save your file in the folder where your reference picture was. So if your file is not in the same folder, because I like creating different folders, obviously, to have it cleaned up, it will save your file there. And then when you're looking for your latest version, you're going to be like, what, where is it? So pay attention where it's saving it, yeah? That's one tip from this video. I will see you in the next one where I think we're creating the eyes. Thank you for watching.